Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Parker. My channel name is Ethereal Knowledge, and I got my cousin here,
Jared.
and he's known as also JTW.
Yeah, also known as JTW.
He's an artist. Anyways, though, we figured, we're doing our first episode today of. What would we call this, a podcast, or we'd call this more like a kind of like a series thing? It's like a pre-recorded thing that we're thinking of doing. And our goal is to just kind of impact you guys in a positive way, right? I mean, we know what it's like when the challenges that life brings and everything else that comes with it and stuff. And we're just going to kind of, this first little episode, we're just going to kind of dive into a little bit of like our life a little bit, spirituality, or kind of our thoughts on religion, God, that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
All that getting said, though, first thing I want to talk about, man, is let's talk about your life story. I mean, you've lived a trip. Man. I mean, let's.
So I'm almost 32 now. I do music, I skateboard, I work out. Those are my hobbies. Got a lot of passions. I think the biggest thing right now with life is just trying to understand it. We're in this world right now where it's like, we're trying to get out of this 8-hour, 9 to 5. And we're literally enslavement to the world, and trying to figure things out. I've been through a lot. I was adopted when I was younger and taken away from my family, and me and Parker are only children, so
I think that's why we relate so well.
We
are only child, right?
And I think for this might be a message for those people out there that don't have like a person next to them, like a sister or brother, because kind of just going back in time, we know that our parents both wanted a second child, and it didn't work out that way. It just didn't work out that way, and being the only child, it's been struggles. We've had issues with family, friends, trying to understand life just in general. So biggest thing for me is, I'm just trying to help spread awareness on mental health, and Parker's spreading awareness, on the remedies of life and meditation. So
which all connects to mental health too. So I'd say in general, we share the same passions, just it may be more of a different type of path.
Different perspective,
right?
But spiritually, I feel that we are definitely on the same level. We don't look at religion. We look at spirituality as I feel like that's the closest way to get to God, because if we go and put religion in the talks, then we're just focused on one group. You got to understand there's 15, 12 different religions that
absolutely, and
it's like a competition with everything.
We'll totally dive into that a little bit. Anyways, just kind of sharing a little bit about me too. I mean, so Jared just kind of shared himself a little bit there.
Right.
Thank you for opening up. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, of course.
Anyways, though, my passions currently at the moment are, I'd love doing. I'd love to say that I like to do hiking, but I really only go hiking with him because it's just I don't want to go hike it by myself.
Right.
I love doing yoga. I absolutely love doing yoga, and I practice a couple different sects. I mean, typically, in America, we typically just kind of focus on the typical vinyasa flow, which is a lot of poses and stuff like that. But I'm more into the more spiritual side, and I've been doing Kundalini yoga now for about 8 months and stuff. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that today.
Okay.
He kind of did a little bit of a Kundalini thing and like a Kundalini activations. He's got some. He'll share a little bit too, a little bit later, just kind of what he kind of felt and stuff, right?
Right.
But with that being said, though, and stuff, though, I mean, just looking at life now and stuff, it's so different. I mean, it's like I feel like I have like a deep nostalgia for the past. It just seemed like I was born around like 02, 03, and it was just like when I was growing up, it was like you had like everybody was like riding their skateboard, they had like their iPods or something like that.
Playing basketball.
Some basketball outside. Everybody was just so connected now, and looking at society now, I can't say if we're experiencing a
Yeah.
paradigm shift. Would you say that we're experiencing a paradigm shift where it's like people are kind of being like awakened to like this, I guess this system, right? This matrix that we're living in, right?
Yeah,
This typical
scared of life. I feel like more people are scared of life, to open
Right.
up. I mean, what happened to communication? We were talking about that over dinner earlier, just about how communication is such an important key and aspect of life. I mean, you got to think, we wake up every day, and we meet people at work,
Absolutely.
people that we don't get along with, but we still got to deal with them. You know what I mean? We get ourselves in these situations, whether they're positive or negative, and we,
Right.
as people, have to take our brain and use it to our best ability. Like, okay, maybe I don't like this person, but I got to deal with
Absolutely.
them. Whether it's 20, 30 minutes, 8 hours, 10 hours, we got to adapt. So every day we wake up, we're trying to adapt to life, but
Totally.
it's a struggle. I mean, in every aspect, not just spiritually, and communications, relationships, all these things, they play a factor in our brain activity.
Oh,
and-
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, speaking of like how all this stuff kind of messes with us. I mean, think about like how our ego has evolved, right? I mean, it's
Right.
like when you were younger or something like that. I mean, you see typical 50s movies or something like that, and it's like 50s, 60s, whatever. Before before 2010s though. Okay, you see the
Yeah.
society then, right?
Right.
And it was a lot more of like, it was just like before, like you'd say something like you didn't overthink things as much. Like if I went up to somebody, let's say for example, if I'm approaching a woman, right? For example, and it's like I want to try to get her number. It's like our ego now kind of tells us like, well, this isn't the way that we're supposed to go about it in this society.
Yeah.
Dating apps are the only way, or
Which
know,
it is. It feels like it is.
it
I don't feel like...
definitely feels like it is, right? And
Yeah.
it's gotten kind of weird because it's like I mean, it's like whenever I see somebody, it's like, oh, I want to kind of go approach them or something like that. It's like my
Right.
ego just kind of is like, it's weird because it's like ego can tell you to do things and they can kind of guilt trip you, and then if you don't
Yeah.
do it, it'll guilt trip you, right? So I mean, it's like
Yeah. We're living with our own traumas in reality.
exactly right.
We build our own traumas in our brain. Am I overextending, or if I'm, kind of jumping the gun? Am I overthinking? Am I dealing with paranoia? We deal with these things because these things are a mental thing that we're dealing with. Did I do something wrong? We're always questioning, how to be better.
Oh,
So,
for sure. Exactly. Yeah. No. I think that's a great point you brought up and stuff. And it's like,
Right.
and it's like it gets weird too because even us like trying to better ourselves, it's like we get in the way of ourselves and we're harsh on ourselves. We don't accomplish what we want to accomplish. You know what I mean? I mean, how many
Yeah.
times do you there's oftentimes where it's like I'll set an intention for my day off work. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm gonna accomplish this today. I'm gonna do that, and it's like just days where I'm just like hanging out in bed,
Yeah.
bro, and it's like I just didn't do anything. It was almost like I was
Isolation, almost.
just isolating
like,
myself, right? And it's just yeah. I mean, society just feels a lot more.
Well, and
lot
the
more
biggest
isolated,
thing
right?
too is I feel like we're in these work. I don't know why, but I can never just be happy at work. I mean, or it's like the thought of waking up, doing the same thing every single day, and it's just like, what we seek for change, right, in life, and the problem is we don't know how to get change. How do we get change and be able to go on normal when we're adapted to one certain style? Just like with relationships, it's like, got to be on the computer. I can't go to the gym and just meet this person. We're so disconnected by the world and
absolutely.
what is really happening. I mean, and then kind of going back into mental health, our brain activity is telling us like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to do this anymore. We are slaves of the system, like you said. We have to wake up every day and do these things.
And I mean, let's talk about kind of like what like slave right kind of is a little bit, and of course, I mean, like we know that there's slavery where it's like you have people working for free labor, right? I mean, but it's like, and it's like we do got to count our blessings and stuff like that too. But in life, though, I mean, if you're not able to free your mind, I mean, brother, I mean, it's almost like that's a form of enslavement. I mean, working our 9 to 5. I mean, working our 9 to 5 to just pay for our roof over our head and
No spending money.
and buy our food, and
Literally.
yeah, sure, maybe we could buy a couple little knickknacks and stuff like that too, and not that like money is the key to happiness and stuff like that, but it's just like the fact that we rely on this system, right, this hierarchy, right, I mean to survive, I mean, right, I mean we're the only species that pays to live on this planet. I mean, you don't see any other species paying to live on this planet, right?
Real. I mean, a dog and a cat. You see them paying rent. Hey, they live in houses and they don't pay no rent. They, go number 2 on the thing, and then you got to go clean it up. These are living experiences that we're dealing with daily, and I think the biggest problem is I have a hard time. I don't know if you have a hard time,
right.
but just looking at life positively. Like I feel like there's so much negativity built around the world
Absolutely.
that's who we are. Like, what we're trying to teach here is that, you can have, there's 7 days in a week, right? You can have 6 bad days, but we're trying to help you guys understand there's still one good day out of those 7. So you could have 6 bad days and have one good day. It could change the way you look at everything. And you could have better, more days. It could be 3 days. You ain't gonna have a good day every day. I mean, life is not about waking up and seeing lilies and flowers, and we gotta adapt to this world that we're in, and whether we want to or not, I mean, it's an everyday struggle.
No, and that's the interesting too and stuff. I mean, it's like I wasn't. I mean, I haven't really talked to him much about it, but. I've been reading a lot of spiritual texts lately, since I've kind of had like a little bit of what you'd call an awakening, and just reading about like how it's like what's considered like work, what we currently do for work is considered like enslavement. You know what I mean? To higher entities, right? Which we can kind of go into a little bit. We can go into a little bit later and stuff, but it's very interesting on how it's played out there, right? And speaking of that, I mean, it's like we should have every single day that we should have. We shouldn't be like having any regrets in life, right? I mean, we should be living every day, out of joy, and stuff like that. And it's one of the things I love about, I found a little bit of a passion, right? But it's like I don't really get to live that passion. It's like I get to do that passion for.
Right.
Like an hour after I get off work, but it's like at least that makes my day like so much brighter. It's not like I feel like every day sucks, right? And that's the cool thing, right? And it's just we gotta also, as society too, we gotta recognize the illusion that we're living in, right? And what I mean by illusion is I'm talking about like how is our perception on something bad that happens to us, right? I mean, if we're operating at a low frequency, okay, for example, and what I mean by low frequency is just feeling the energy of negativity, right? Feeling anger, feeling guilt, feeling anxiety, feeling any of those negative emotions, right?
Right.
Whenever we feel those emotions, what I've kind of learned though is that that's essentially a form. I mean, that's the best form of manifestation, right? Is when you really feel something, right? That's how you bring something into reality, and that's why. When we're feeling all this negative emotion and all that stuff like that, it just gets kind of like, it just spirals downhill to where it's like we're just getting more lost in a world of painful thoughts, and it's very hard for us to. I mean, it's sad too because it's hard for us to we don't actually kind of like. What was I gonna say? Like it's almost like we don't realize that we're kind of like we are kind of like suffering a little bit, but it's almost like we just don't know how to escape it though.
Yeah.
You get what I mean, right?
Yeah, and I mean going on with this, like I feel the biggest thing is we get bored with life. We wake up, do the same thing every day, and for what? For pennies, for
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is we believe that life is better than what it is now. I feel that we're in hell right now. I know you do too. We feel that we are already there. So we're trying to adapt to get to that one place that they say exists, right? We're spiritual. So we strive every day, but we have so many of these things that are disconnecting us from the world, just taking us down, and I think that's why we seek for change, because we it's the only way to progress, you know. But
absolutely,
the biggest thing is how do you progress? You know what I mean? Like where do we start? Like I think that's what we were talking about earlier at dinner.
I can kind of get into that a little bit. Yeah, so it's like, where do we start, right? And it's like, well, I would say for, you know, a new person or something like that, right? Yeah. I would say like, where do we start, right? And it's just so weird. Sometimes it's like, it's like where do I start in life, right? You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's just so different, you know, compared to where we're at, right? And it's like, where do we start spiritually? Where do we start physically? What do we know it to believe, right? I mean, because sometimes, I mean, and then it's like, sometimes we just don't know and stuff. But I'd like to maybe kind of go down a little bit more in the rabbit hole of the spiritual part of that. I mean, and it starts with kind of like, I mean, like, how do we progress? Like, that was a great question you brought up, right? So how do we progress? So personally, I talked about how I did yoga, right? And I talked about, anyways, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Kundalini yoga. So for those of you that don't know, about 3 years ago, I basically kind of went through I took a geology class, and the reason I took a geology class from a professor that was like really knew his stuff, right? And that's kind of what kind of like spurred on like this, like, wait a second, what is this stuff I'm believing in? You know, it's contradicting the Bible. It's like, wait, is this true? And then it's like, I had this feeling for a little while where it's like, I just felt like there was no purpose, you know what I mean, to life. And I was just like, geez. So it's like, but it's like, and I think the hardest thing for me to believe is I always thought that God is attached to a religion. Yeah, because
they kept saying he was a Jew. Like, I mean, that's what they preached for years.
Well, that's not what God is, right? It's Jew, but I mean, it's like, it's more the fact that, like, I mean, it's safe to say this. I mean, I think we're adapting, like, as a society. We're starting to recognize that God is not this monolithic figure that's holding the globe in his hands, right? Yeah. And it's like this actual figure. And if you're a Christian, you know, you go to heaven or hell. You know what I mean? And I think we're starting to kind of recognize a little bit of that. And you know, I mean, personally, I mean, what I've kind of realized from it is that I believe that God is a little bit more of like what you would call, I guess you could call like a frequency that you just have to kind of tap into. Like it's part of the universe. Well, right?
You got to believe, and that's where the believing part comes in. You know, we have to adapt to what maybe someone's like, because see, the way we were brought up is, you know, we were brought up into Christianity and so forth. And I think the biggest thing is like, yes, we may be that, but we're more than that. You know what I mean? Like, because we're one step ahead. I feel like, you know, the society, they just glue on to one name. You know, I'm Mormon. I'm a Catholic. Whatever that is. And they all have different beliefs. They all have a different way of getting to God. You know, there's no certain path to get to God. I mean, if we were to sit here and say there's only one path to get to God, and that's, you know, believing, that's the only one that makes sense to me, because religion never made sense. The Bible, they say the Bible was made by man, you know, it wasn't even, you know. So if these human hands, right, that you see right here, and they, you know, there's just different things that we're taught. You know, for me, that's what I was taught, that God didn't make the Bible, He, you know, or whether it was the 10 Commandments or whatever, you know, there's so many things that are taught around us, what to believe, right? Where to start. That's kind of where we're at right now. We don't know what's on the other side. You know, we like to picture this thing of when somebody dies, they just automatically go, oh, they're in a better place. We don't know if they're in a better place.
Right. We don't know what happened, right? I mean, we don't know if they're... And, you know, I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards, like, the reincarnation kind of belief. Right. I mean, we don't know if they're caught in the same reincarnation cycle or if, or what, right? But what I can say, though, is that, speaking about, what was I going to say? So, okay, where you get started at is just so confusing, right? Because it's almost like, it's weird, too, because it's like, there's, like, with religion, too, there's a lot of guilt trip, right? It's almost like I feel guilty all the time when it's like I get asked if I want to go to, you know, go to church, right? And then it's like oh, I don't go, you know what I mean? Like I feel guilty.
Well, you get judged too.
I mean, I feel like I get judged, right? You know what I mean? But it's like I have a different way of, you know, worshiping God, right? And so
what I gotta ask you, what just in a few words, what do you feel? Right. I'll go first. I'll go first with this. So for me, I feel like going for a walk on a Sunday is more. Why? Because I get to touch the ground, right? I get to feel. I get to feel the surroundings. These things that God brought to us.
Absolutely.
If I was in a church and I was sitting next to a person, they're not going to have the same beliefs as I do. They may be there for the wrong reasons. They may be there because maybe they're at their midlife crisis, or maybe they're just there to take a nap and not learn a single thing. That's the thing is, if we can't relate to the person next, like you and me relate very well because we're open-minded. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's
I can't say I've always been open-minded and stuff. I mean, it's weird too because everything you kind of start to realize too that everything kind of like happens for a reason too. So it's kind of like, and like that's the way like the path happens too. So it's like when I was full on Christian and I started doing like I would never have thought like all of a sudden I'd be the type of guy I am now, where it's like I do this Kundalini yoga. I'm into all this kind of metaphysical stuff.
You're doing exercising too.
I you know, I mean all that type of stuff. But it's like the weird thing. I think the best place to get started though is just to seek righteousness, and I think that starts off with keeping our frequency high. You know what I mean? Trying to stay positive and keep our sanguinity during times that are tough. Right? I mean when I mean, how am I going to react to a bill in the mail? Am I going to be like, gosh, dang it, I got a bill in the mail and I'm all pissed off, blah, 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 you know, and just going on about it, just getting lost in my thoughts about how much anger I have, right?
Or we live with anger. I mean,
we do, right? But I mean, but I mean, it's like we have to kind of change our perception a little bit. And I think that's just kind of key to kind of unlocking a little bit of our higher selves, right? Is we need to kind of...
Well, it goes back to our ego. I think that's why we're failing as a society, because we live with this ego. We go by revenge. We go by how things should be in our mindset compared to what it really should be. You know, we could go on for days about how society is shifting in this direction where there's no equality. There's no... We just don't treat others like... You got to remember, you got to treat others how you want to be treated. You know what I mean? In all aspects.
Let's go on another thing too. Let's talk about the topic of judging, right? So I mean, when it comes to judging, I mean, it's like you see in the Bible. I mean, you've heard people say, "Judge righteously." Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I tend to kind of think about the whole judging thing, like even judging righteously too. Because here's the thing too, I might judge somebody. Let's say I judge somebody for drinking, okay? Yeah. You know, I judge somebody for drinking, okay? Right. Because I don't drink myself, right? And I judge them because it's like that's me judging righteously, right? Oh, this person's an alcoholic, and I can't believe they're drinking. I'm gonna just throw a little judgment their way, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like that alcoholic could say, "Hey, Parker, do you remember that time you beat up that kid?" Or I'm just giving an example,
right? On the same level,
and then it's like on the same level, right? So I mean, it's who's to say what? I mean, who's to define? You know what I mean? Like what evil really is? And I feel like we need to kind of cleanse our perception of evil, and we need to have you know what we need to have is we need to have a positive reaction to seeing evil. I mean, and the positive reaction doesn't mean like, oh, that's so good that this person did this evil act. The positive action is to, I think the positive action, in my opinion, is you know, obviously try to feel compassion, right? And just be like, oh, that's so sad that happened, right? But when you start getting like, let's just say when you start being like, man, that person that did that action or something like that, I wish death on them because it was just so terrible and blah, blah, blah. And
we've all done that. You know, we sit here and lie and pretend that, I've never done that. I know each and every one of you that we're talking to right now has been to that place. You know, whether it's with your neighbor, your family member, your loved one, it doesn't matter. We've all been there. So you got to understand, we're human, right? We are not perfect. And the one thing is that God will do. He will stricken you if you try to become perfect. That's why we strive for perfection, but we will never be perfect. That's why I feel like that's the one advantage that God has over us that we still haven't been able to understand, because it's like, you know, sometimes we do blame. We blame not just ourselves, the person next to us. Sometimes we blame God as well, you know. And you got to understand, we're human, right? We're learning, we're adapting. Every day it's something new. And it tends to be, life gets worse and worse. That's the thing about life. We got to understand, life does not get better and better and better. If it was...
Well, that's the thing. It peaks, right? I mean, you feel like it peaks, right? And there's just...
Well, you got to want it.
There's certain... Well, I mean, I think life can get better and better and better. But what I think though is I think that there's definitely plateaus like
Right.
that we need to mention, right? There's plateaus where it's like you feel like you're stuck, and it's like, man,
Yeah.
I just don't feel like I'm making any progress, and it's like, what else should I do? What else do I need to do? And I think
Exactly.
that we just need to and I think that that's maybe just be a little bit part of our ego, right? And we just need
Yeah.
to just kind of recognize that a little bit, and
Because our ego will kill us. Like in
Oh, for
time,
sure.
it will kill us. Because we going back on revenge. I mean, how many times in our life have I wanted revenge? Whether I got beat up
Absolutely.
or I got something happened to me that wasn't supposed to happen to me. I want revenge. Like, what am I going to get out of that? Right? I'm
Right.
going to get. I'm not going to bring that person back to life that maybe I lost. I'm not gonna be able to fix my wrongs into rights after I go and make a wrong when I knew. You know what I mean? It's a learning stage. There's no such thing as, like I said, perfection. We could sit here for days and just go on about, I want to be better. What we want to. We got to strive for that. That's why we make morals. Like
and it's like if we can adapt a little bit more of this, I don't know. I mean, not necessarily like you could almost maybe call it strive for perfection, right?
Right.
I just think that our lives would just be
Yeah.
would just improve a lot more. Like this, you know what I mean? And I mean, I'm not saying that because it's more of the fact of like maybe like kind of striving.
Yeah.
But I mean, we also recognize too that we are humans, and when we do make mistakes, I think the biggest thing we need to do is I think we need to, when we make a mistake and stuff like that, we need to forgive ourselves immediately, and we need to not live in the past, and we need to move on,
Exactly.
right? And it's
Yeah.
it's all about trying to stay present. I mean, it's like, how often, are you always there's a lot of times where I'm just constantly thinking about the past, right? Or the future,
Yeah.
or what's going to happen this? Am I going to be able to pay my bills 2 months from now? And what's going to happen? Am I making enough money, Yada, 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 right? And it's like, do you kind of feel a little bit of that same way too, where it's like you feel like maybe you're sometimes just kind of like lost in like the past, the future, and you'd have a hard time kind of staying present, right? And your focus. Sometimes you kind of focus on like negative parts of the future, right?
Yeah. Well, and for myself, I battle depression. Every day I just wait and just for something to change. But, I have to want it to change. I have to want to put the time and the effort in. It's just like, we have to make morals. People are so lazy in this world. Going in when, I can't really use the word, but the corona, the virus thing that had to happen, where we all kind of just wanted like everything given to us. Those stimulus checks, we didn't get this one stimulus check that we didn't get, and we had to how am I going to recuperate, and we had to figure out. A lot of businesses went out of business. A lot of people who had jobs, they don't have jobs now. Why? Because we hit this pandemic and we had to learn and adapt. But
Absolutely.
The one thing I never seen was equality. We never once said, "Hey, bro, I got your back. I'm here for you." Nobody did that. Everybody masked up and hid and isolated from the real world. Why? Because that's what the government and the news and everybody in this outlet taught us. But I kind of went with this mindset. I don't know if you went with the mindset,
Right.
but I was like, if you don't talk about it, you don't have it. Now, that is the ego thing that I have.
That kind of goes
right?
a little bit with
But-
belief is a powerful weapon. You
Yeah.
know what? Like I said,
Yeah.
anything you give your I am attention to must manifest, right?
Right.
So it's like if I'm saying like, oh, I'm feeling sick, right? I'm attracting more sickness, right? I mean, but when you start to kind of recognize that, your feelings and your thoughts and all that stuff kind of creates your reality, and
Well, I think
begins
health-
to shift. But
with health, like we can talk about health
Well,
for
health
a minute.
too, okay.
Because look at our
a healthy body is also a healthy mind, right? And everything kind of stems from the gut too, right?
Well,
it
what
all
is
stems from-
crazy is what we're eating, man. Like the preservatives they're putting in our food. We all got cancer and we don't even know it. It's like
and that's and I know, and it's taking effect on it's actually taking a little bit of effect on me mentally, because it's like anytime I
Yeah.
travel somewhere, I kind of go, like anytime I go to the airport, dude, or like I have to
just feel
travel.
sick, yeah.
No, I feel sick, right? But I do kind of like freak out a little bit, just because I know like
Yeah.
all the food in the airport is like extremely processed, right? I mean, it's all got all those seed oils and
Right.
everything else, right? Plastics and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's terrible. Or even whenever I go on a trip, right? It's like I got to eat out all the time, right? And it's just like, and it's like, I mean, when I was younger, I mean, I could do that. I mean, I could eat whatever I want, right? But it's
Right.
like when I get older and stuff, dude, it's like all that stuff just kind of messes with you. And when you're not taking good care of your when you're not taking good care of your health, then it's like that's where I think laziness can kind of stem from, because if you're
Yeah.
not taking good care of your health, and if when you're eating just bad, then it's like that's how you just go down that rabbit hole, right? Sometimes it's like, for me, it used to be a big cycle, right? I'd wake up, I'd have like a really healthy day, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, oh man, this is really healthy, right? And then it would be like, I guess and then it would be like all of a sudden like a next day or something like that. Let's just say I cheat on it, and I sometimes I'll kind of convince myself that, oh, this ice cream, I need the extra calories, right?
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
all this extra to kind of put on some.
Right.
And it's like I'll cheat on my diet a little bit, right? And then it's like it just kind of like that kind of takes over a little bit, right? And then it becomes a cycle again. You know what? I'm gonna eat healthy and clean. Oh, I'm gonna break it because it doesn't really matter, right? And I mean, I'm not saying that you can't enjoy life, right? You can totally enjoy life, but just, I mean, right? I mean, like you were saying, I mean, all the poisons and stuff in our food, and I'm hoping it can be fixed pretty soon. I mean, I don't see duality. We try not to see duality. We don't try to get political or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're just hoping that some things can change, because some things do need to change.
Well,
We'll say that.
It's crazy because, with mental illness and mental health, and then you got this thing that they're saying is not curable, cancer, right?
Absolutely.
The system that they built has been to poison us and make us sick.
Oh, for sure.
So where's the cure? Get rid of all these pesticides, these poisons, this stuff that they put inside our body that gives us issues with our immune system. We should not be sick every 3 months. Like I get congestion every 3 months.
Oh, and
I know you do too, bro.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, it's crazy too, because I mean, it's like even when I'm going, like even if I go to Whole Foods, for example, okay, and I'm buying that grass-fed ground beef, right? I mean, it's still in that plastic package that's leaching in, or even if I'm buying that cold-pressed oranges, it's still got all those microplastics, and it's just. It's got ridiculous, right? I mean, just
it's ridiculous.
It's like
they don't know how to look at a rotisserie chicken. They literally put in a plastic thing, and it's literally plastic melting on a chicken.
They inject all that stuff in it too, right? And it's like what you think is healthy too, like kind of isn't too. And that's why it's like almost like to where I got to the point to where it's like, man, I don't even want to check the ingredients in my food, man. It's like I don't want to check.
There's no point.
Because
there's always something.
Then it starts to mess with me psychologically, right? When I start to check with all the ingredients in my food, and then I'm like, dang, man, it's like that just kind of messes with me. That's why sometimes it's like I don't even want to know, because it's like, because I already know that there's so much in it, and I try to mask it, right?
We're gonna go and crap on McDonald's for an instance. I just found out the other day their fries have 30 ingredients. I mean, you think it would be just potato, salt, and sugar? Why did they have to go add 27 other ingredients, preservatives, just when they're making it right there in the place? It's not like,
it's crazy.
Or they got these meat patties frozen, boom, throws it on, and I know we had past jobs where we didn't work. We had to work in that kind of field. It's like. I know you couldn't have waited to get out of that. I mean, it was.
McDonald's?
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, you can tell your experience if you want, but it's kind of a.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of those jobs I talked about where I felt. I will say this: what I am very grateful about is though I think you definitely you seem to kind of enjoy your job too, right? I mean, you definitely would rather do it than anything else, right, in your field, and so would I too.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like that's the thing too. It's like we all need to find our passion, you know what I mean? And it's like when we can find our passion, and then maybe even that passion can be my career. Then it's like, whoa, this is amazing, because then it's like it just feels like such a blessing from the universe. You know what I mean? You feel so free, and sometimes it's a little nice to have a little reminder, like, hey, realize the freedom you have. You know what I mean? It's nice to kind of be to feel just a little bit of that, because then when you escape it, then it's like, wow, I really feel this freedom. But let's talk a little bit about I want to talk a little bit about Matrix and what it is, right? So about like a year ago, okay, like I kind of started hearing about the concept of the Matrix, right? And I used to think it was the idea. So I used to think of like the red pill, blue pill. But my analogy was that it was like the red pill was like kind of like a more like conservative approach to life. You worked 70, 80 hours a week. You got to be like an Andrew Tate kind of guy. You got to have all these women or something like that. You got to have this. You got to have that, right? Yada yada. And then I thought that the blue pill was like, be fat, be lazy, be woke or whatever it may have been, right? And I used to think that that's how I used to view the Matrix, and I think that's kind of what the Matrix does. Is I think
Right.
it kind of makes us think that like we're on the right path because it's like we're on like the more narrow path
Yeah.
to life, but it's just a lot more complex than that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like it's interesting just the realization that you have on what it is. And I think
Yeah.
that the Matrix is essentially just your ego in your head, just your ego that programs you, right?
Exactly.
And it's like we don't even recognize it. I didn't even know what I didn't even know what the ego was until maybe a few months ago. I mean, I thought that ego was just thinking that you're better, but no, it's responsible for all of those other
Yeah.
emotions, all those other aspects in life. And
Well, every day is a learning. Like I swear, it's like a learning experience. You know, we were talking a couple weeks back about how people just don't say hello anymore. It's like,
oh, I know, and it's
You
just
know,
so crazy because then it's like
where's
kinda
your
work-
manners? You know what I mean? Like our parents, right, teach us to say thank you for dinner, and not just to God. You know, just in general, like. Hey, thanks, Grandma,
gratitude
for
consciousness, right?
You know,
Yeah.
thanks, Grandma, for making even when we were at the restaurant earlier, we thanked the lady. You know, maybe we don't have the greatest money to give her a $50 tip, but we did what we could. You know what I mean? That's the thing. We go out of our way, right? We go out of our way to wave to the person, and then the person doesn't wave back. What is it? It's negativity.
Well, and see,
you know?
we need. But here's the thing about our negativity, though. When we experience negativity, and this is a very important point. When we experience negativity, we have to figure out how to react to that in a good way, right? We need to figure out how to react. Like we need to whenever we recognize. Let's say someone judges us, right?
Well,
and we find that negative,
yeah.
right? We need to realize that hey, this person, because when you get to when you start to get to when your consciousness starts to evolve, right? When we start to do all spiritual stuff, you'll start to realize that these people are suffering.
Well,
Like they're suffering deep down inside it. Those people that don't say hello back,
That-
or those people that are rude to you
Yeah.
for no reason, they're just deep down inside suffering, and they just don't. It's not that they're bad people. It's just that
maybe they're going through something.
they're unaware of the truth. None
Yeah.
of us are bad people. We're all
Yeah.
just unaware of the truth of you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And it's everyone's soul wants what's best, right? Nobody's soul wants to do bad things. Even if people do the
Yeah.
bad things, right? That could just be more of just what they're, you know what I mean? But
Well,
their
yeah.
ego, whatever you want to call it. But our souls are pure, though. They're pure and they're innocent, right? And they want
Yeah.
good things.
I feel like it's one thing, we don't know what a person's going through. Maybe they're
Totally.
going through a breakup. Maybe they lost someone and they just pissed off at the world and they don't want to say hello back because they don't feel that what you're doing right now is important. And that's okay,
Oh, totally.
We mourn every day, whether it's a loved one, someone we lost in the past, or it could be something even smaller where they're just having a bad day. But this is the thing, with mental health, we can't just get triggered because somebody's having a bad day. You got to be there for that person. Like if you're having a bad day today, talk to me, reach out to me. Maybe I
Totally.
can help. That's the problem with this world. We're so isolated. As soon as we're
for
not
sure.
feeling, as soon as something's not going right in our life, we curl up in a ball and we don't come out of that shell.
And I'd love to expand on that point a little bit. What we need to do as a society is we need to transfer, because it's so easy for us to just want to play the victim, right? And we're going to have bad things that happen in life, right? And
Right.
it's going to be hard to admit that we need to get over it. You know what I mean? Even if it's like the worst thing ever. And it's
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say that to somebody that's like really experiencing some deep traumas, right?
Yeah.
Like abuse and all that other stuff, right? But what we need to do is we need to recognize that, hey, I'm not gonna play this victim mode anymore, and I'm gonna create my own reality the way that I want to see it.
Right.
And I think when you do that, I think you trick your mind, and then it starts to feel that way. And
Yeah.
I've kind of experienced that too. And lately, compared to the state that I used to kind of feel, I feel like I may have been kind of a little bit sped out a little bit, but I feel like it's all just a learning cycle.
Right.
And I think that is that it's just that every experience that we have is like is a tool for us to learn from. Right?
Exactly.
And it can even be an addiction. It can even be like
Yeah.
going down like a rabbit hole. It can be like I could slip up like 25 times like a month for, let's just say, something I'm battling, right?
Yeah.
And it's like even on that day too, but it's all contributing to the idea of like, I don't want to live this life anymore, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we do break away from our things, right? Because we start to realize the creative power within ourselves
Yeah.
to actually have the willpower to break through some of these issues, right? Some of these struggles that we have, and we all have our struggles, right?
Yeah, and we struggle. You know, we the hardest thing is waking up every day and just doing this thing that life brought to us. You know, whether it's, you know, providing. You know, it's so hard to provide for the person next to you and make ends meet and just save.
Totally.
You know, we gotta learn how to save and invest. And if we want something in life, you gotta work for it. That's the problem with the world, though. I feel like you get so relaxed and then you start playing victim. Like you can't play victim forever. You know what I mean? Own up to your mistakes. Now, the biggest thing, like, there's so many ways to own up to your mistakes, but like financially, you know, I feel like you could just feel that you're not in the right position. Like you said, it was very important that you find a career that you somewhat enjoy.
You turn your passion into a career, right? So
Right.
I mean, like your passion is, for example, music. So it's like, or YouTube or whatever you do, right?
Or
what I
in
mean?
mental health.
Mental
as well,
health,
yeah.
right? I mean, so it's like maybe you kind of already have kind of turned that
Yeah.
into a career a little bit, and you could maybe even turn that more into a career to where it'll eventually feel a little bit more free, and
Right.
you might enjoy it more over time.
Yeah.
I'm sure, right?
Well, and it's not always about the money.
But
you
it's
know,
not
I was-
about the money, though.
It isn't. It's
not
about your
about the money.
happiness. Can I mentally do this every single day without having a bad day every single day? But you got to be able to do enough also to get by. So, like, that's the thing. You got to, like, balance these things in life, right? And that's the biggest
Totally.
thing. How do you balance positivity and negativity? You have to learn to do it, because if you don't, you will not succeed. Your ego will take over and you will fail each time. And why will you fail? Because you didn't try hard enough. That's the thing in life, right? Like I always tell you, right? You know, I text my cousin. I'm like, yo, did you go to the gym today? I didn't go today, but I went yesterday. Okay, you went yesterday. That's good. Today you needed a recovery. I understand. So that's the thing. You gotta have morals in life. You gotta want. If you want a house, don't talk about it. Go and do it. Go and get it. Do everything you can to make that happen. Whether it happens today or it takes 10 years. Make a plan.
Well,
you know, scheduling, I think, is very important. You know, like writing down, you know, having a journal.
You know,
journaling.
I think that one of the I think that journaling is great, right? But
Yeah.
I'd like to kind of go a little bit to that point and stuff like that too. But
Yeah.
we need to realize too that, I mean, we can create the reality that we want, and it doesn't take us 80 hours a week. It doesn't take us this 100 hours a week. It doesn't take us this big crazy job, right? I mean,
Right.
it's just we and when you seek, I feel like when you seek righteousness,
Right.
everything comes. And when you, I think this is more of a Buddhist teaching, right? But
Yeah.
when you want nothing out of life
Right.
and you just let it go, like when you just let your desires go, then it all just kind of comes into place the way that you want it, right? And then it's like, that's kind of what I realized too. It's like what I would do is I would be really specific about someone, like the things that I've tried to manifest, right? Like, for example, like a partner, for example, right? I was actually very specific, like, oh, I want it to be this person and all this other stuff too, but it's like, that wasn't the way to go about it. It's like we need to focus on our state of being. We don't need anything than what we already have right now. We don't need anything, right?
I think sometimes we do.
And
we feel like we do.
We
when
feel like
really
we do.
don't.
We feel like we do, but it's
Yeah.
like we need to recognize that when something becomes a need or something like that, when that want becomes a need, you're just not going to get it.
Yeah.
It's just not going to play. I mean, maybe there's a slim chance, but it's just not going to work out the way you want it to.
See, like where I'm
You know?
at in my life right now, I feel like chase after your dreams. Stop chasing after something that doesn't exist. You know, we latch onto sometimes it's not just people, it's just energy. You know, like when we latch onto bad energy, what do we get out of it? We get one step behind of our goals. You know, we got to set goals every single day. You know, and that's the thing. Oh, you know, whether you're a social media person or you're new to it, like for this is an opening for us. This is our first podcast.
Oh,
y'all gotta give us a break, all right? Y'all probably like, how many times they gonna say that? But you gotta understand.
Oh, and
We
there's
work
plenty to
at
learn.
this. If we work at this, right?
Oh yeah.
What
it's
are we
gonna
gonna
be-
get? And it's gonna become a reward.
And
It's gonna-
and to say this, I'm enjoying myself right now. I don't need this for money or
Yeah.
something like that. I think that we genuinely
trying to help others.
we
really.
genuinely want to help others,
And
right?
and ourselves,
and,
you know?
and ourselves, right? And just like I said, everybody's soul wants purity.
Yeah.
And I think, I think I'd like to. I'm going to start off with just like a little bit of like some closing kind of some closing thoughts that I kind of wanted to talk about. Just like a quick like recap is just. I think the first thing we need to do if you want to like progress, or if you're lost and if you want to just figure out where to start with, I'd say the best thing to do is to. I think the best place to start would be to try to focus on your state of being, right? Try to focus on staying present, you know what I mean? And also just trying to focus on hey, you can actually even do practices that you love, right? That can help, right? Like you love to do music, I love to do yoga, right?
Right.
I think that one that everybody can benefit from though is meditation.
Meditation,
it's great,
yeah.
right? Because it just helps slow your mind, and it's just you realize that you're so much stronger, right? Your body's experiencing something, but you're not experiencing it, though. Your consciousness is separate, right?
And this
So
could be
it's-
tons of things. This could be going on a walk, doing yoga, maybe exercising, playing sports, weightlifting,
And-
whatever it is. It's all like it's like a release. You know what
exactly, and that kind of goes on the path of like, and in a lot of our state of minds, right, to achieve this state and to achieve this life that we want.
I mean? Yeah.
We're gonna have to take a little bit of some. We're gonna have to take some action, some doing. It's gonna take us a little bit of doing, but I think once we kind of have already done that doing, then it's already there, and then we're just here. It turns from doing to like being. It's like if that makes sense. Like I'm already feeling it. You know what I mean? I don't need to because then it's like you don't feel the need to do all this crazy spiritual stuff. But it's like you. I really enjoy doing it. That's why I continue doing the things that I do. But it just turns more into being, and it's like you don't need anything other than just recognizing the power that you have within yourself. So that's what I like to just kind of close out with is just just start to recognize that hey, you have this power. You can control your state of being and stuff like that, and you can also, you have to question every thought that comes to your mind. Every single thought that comes to your mind, you have to question it and say, hey, this isn't true, right? This is just my ego, right?
Yeah. Whether it's negative or positive. And the thing that we're not trying to teach you, the main thing is it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be negative. Use your emotions to your advantage to learn. That's what we are trying to teach you. Because there is no perfect. We are not here to sit here and tell you, you need perfection. You can, get a better job, quit eating poison, all this stuff. It doesn't work that way.
Sometimes
life don't work that way.
With the way that we're programmed too. For example, and this kind of relates a little bit to judging too, is that the way that we're programmed is that sometimes like the first time we see somebody, right?
Yeah.
First thing we do is we make a judgment, right? Whether it's positive or negative, right? And I think the best thing that I started off with doing is that whenever I see somebody, just my mind automatically will sometimes make a negative judgment, and it's just it's not good, right? Let's just say if I see somebody that's overweight, right, like severely overweight, right?
Yeah.
But I want to turn that into something positive, right? So maybe the first thing that comes to mind is, boy, what a big person that is, right? I'm giving an example, right?
Yeah.
But let's just say, but then I recognize right away, ego, that's not true.
No.
And then I say something like, that seems like a lovely person, right? That's what I start off with, right? And sometimes if I don't know what to say, if I don't know how to make a positive judgment, I'll say, what a nice person.
Or open the door for them.
Open the door. Be kind to them. Send them love. You don't have to. If you're a little bit shy, you don't have to impact the world by saying things to people, right? You can do that. You can do that through your mind, right? You can be a tool for that person. You can send that person. Love, empathy, whatever it may be, positivity, right? But
if they're struggling with something, maybe with their weight, right? It could be health issues. It could be a million things, right? We don't really know. That's the problem with us. We just judge everybody. You know,
Right.
we don't really know what's going on in the world with somebody. Like, I could be bad on depression, but I got a smile on my face, right? You're not going to know that. How would you know that, right? If I was to sit here and just be like, everything's going good, nothing in life is always going to be going good. You got to understand, like, we're going to have so many flaws and differences, and we just got to look at things more positively. That's something I got to learn. Everything I look at in life is like negative. You know, I live in my own matrix, you know, and there's other people that live in their matrix. Living in a matrix could be so many things. It doesn't just have to be one thing. You know, we categorize like tons of things. We gave you multiple scenarios. And to close this off, I think we both coming up at that time mark, but this first video that we given you guys, we want you guys to just kind of take your mind and, you know, maybe reevaluate maybe what you could have gone and made the mistake, right? And then reevaluate, how could I be better next time? That's what you need to learn.
Or how did I attract this experience, right? How did I attract this experience, you know? Or what can I learn from this experience, right? What can I learn from it, right? Because we can learn from all of our experiences.
Well, because your ego, that's how we started this whole conversation, was ego. You know, we all have this ego. Oh, I'm better than that, or I'm this, I'm that. You go and play that, right? I'm like playing devil's advocate in a way, but it's like you can't just go and label something, right? Like, okay, this person's overweight. Well, that person's skinny. You know, but like, we need to stop labeling everything, treat everything as equality. But the thing is, it's okay to fail and mess up, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, I made a bad comment. It's all a learning thing. After you go, and it's just like if you made a sin, realize what you did wrong and then learn from it. And then that's how you fix things. You don't have to fix things the second it happens. Maybe you realize it 20, 30 days later. And then you're like, maybe I shouldn't have talked to that person like that. That's probably why that happened.
But we also got to be careful too, because like I said, though, guilt is part of the ego, right? So we got to just be like, I forgive myself, right? And I'm going to move on, and I send that person love, right? Or whatever it may be. And then we don't need to loathe in it, right? Like, boy, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did that. We don't need to we don't need to be living in our past, right? But
yeah. Well, this is the end of our first episode. Jared?
Parker?
We got a lot more lessons, though, that we will be speaking on. We're going to dive into, you know, more on ego and more on just spirituality, and the list goes on. I'm telling you, you guys are going to learn a lot of great things.
Absolutely.
We had a great time with y'all. For anybody who tuned in, watched, we even got some short clips we're going to have, you know, where if you just don't want to hear a whole hour of us talking and just hear... Go check those out. You're not going to want to miss a lot of these. A lot of key points that might help you better yourself as we are trying to better ourselves. We're out.
We're out. Take care.